Good afternoon, everyone. Are you able to hear me? Okay, I think there is some problem. There is some other ENT classes also being scheduled in the same portal. That's why we are not able to take the class. So I'll just try my best to take the class. Let's start with the topic common exanthematous diseases. So in children, what does it mean? It is like a child who comes to you with a exanthem. Exanthem means it's a Greek word. It means kind of a discoloration or a rash in the skin. So what happens is when these children have these rashes, the most common presentation along with the exanthem is a fever. So fever along with the rash is most commonly what we refer to as an exanthematous disease because there is an underlying fever, there is some prodrome, maybe fever, conjunctivitis, rhinorrhea, coryza, and then there is an onset of an exanthem or a rash. So for this, the most importantly, we first need to know what kind of rash does it occur. So rash is just change in the skin which may affect its color, it may affect its appearance, okay, or a texture. And it can occur due to the multiplication of the infected organism. It can be because of the toxin production like in Streptococcus and Staphylococcus. It can be due to the autoimmune destruction of the skin or involvement of the vasculature. The most common is because of the toxin production by the organism. So rash. First of all, this is like more initial 1 or 2 sites are like derma. That is, we have to see differentiate between a macule, a papule, or a nodule. So a macule is just a change in the appearance of the skin. There is nothing that you can palpate. So then there is papule. In this, there is a solid red lesion, okay, which is around 0.5 centimeter. Then nodule. Nodule, it is different in terms like it has a more depth into the subcutaneous tissue. So when you palpate, you can see, you can feel the depth, and that is how you differentiate it between from the papule. So this is a macule with a brownish discoloration. These are the small papules, okay, and then there is next is this is the nodule, okay. Now coming to the plaques. Plaques are small papules. They combine together and form a large area that is called as plaques. And then there are vesicles, which are fluid-filled lesions, which is around 0.5 centimeter in diameter. So vesicles and pustules, that is the main differentiate point is in pustule you have an infective. So there can be a yellowish, greenish fluid which is inside your lesion. Then it is called as a pustule. Otherwise, if there is a clear fluid, it is a vesicle. So this is a plaque, as you can see in the photo. Then there is the first lesion is the clear fluid, which is the vesicles. Then the other next photograph is the yellowish colored fluid, which is the pustule, and this is the large bulle. So bulles are same as vesicles, that is they are clear filled lesions, but they are more than 0.5 centimeter in diameter. They are much larger. Like when you have a burn, the most commonly you have the superficial bulla formation, or in cases of staphylococcal infections, you can have bulle formation. Then there is the important thing is to look for purpuras. Now purpuras are your pinkish lesions that you can see on the skin, but you have to differentiate between a palpable and a non-palpable purpura. So the palpable purpura is most commonly due to the inflammation of the vessel wall, while the non-palpable purpura are the flat red lesions which are due to the bleeding into the skin. That is the most commonly we call them as petechiae. I will just show you the photographs. So if you can see in this child, the arm has small pinpoint lesions. These are the petechiae, or we often call them as non-palpable purpura. Then in this child, the lower limbs show large purpuras, but which are palpable also. These are mainly seen in HSP conditions or meningococcemia. Now this is another thing, wheals. This photograph is typical of the wheal lesion that you can appreciate in a child, and these are mostly due to the swelling in the superficial region of the skin. So when a dermis, there is collection of the superficial fluid which can occur mostly after an allergic reaction. So then the wheal formation is there. I have shown you this photograph just so that you can have some idea how these lesions look like, and they are very common when a child comes to you. You know, there are many specific lesions also, and there are many non-specific lesions also. So you need to identify those specific lesions, because what is most important in xanthomatous lesions is the communicability. How these lesions, how these viruses, they are highly contagious, so it can spread into the community. So our role as a doctor is to provide the relief or the treatment to the concerned child, but also to prevent the further spread in the neighborhood, in the hospital, and in other community areas. So according to the what kind of lesions that you find, this is a tabulated form of what common causes of those lesions. For example, the maculopapular lesions, which are central in distribution, they are mostly commonly caused by viruses like measles, rubella, your HIV virus, or bacteria like scarlet fever, syphilis. They are the common causes of maculopapular rash. And the most common kind of rash or exanthem that you will find a child will be a maculopapular rash. So there is always a combination of rashes. There is not a one typical rash that a child will come to you and you can easily identify. So there will always be, sometimes a macular papular rash. There can be some vesicles associated with the papules. So there are different combinations which will give you an idea. So this limb, just look at this limb. There is diffuse erythema, there is diffuse swelling, and also if you can see lower down, there is desquamation of the skin. So this is the extensive involvement, which is mainly seen in scarlet fever and toxic shock syndrome. Then these are the vesicular lesions which you see in chickenpox, in your herpes, so and sometimes in rickettsial pox also. Then the petechiae and the purpura, as I told you, they can be seen in your meningococcal infections, in your autoimmune diseases like HSP, immune thrombocytopenia, that is ITP, in leukemias. So these are the typical pictures. So first, an important point is you need to identify them. And second thing is you need to know the cause. Now, how will you find out the cause of a specific rash that the child presents to you? Important points to look for is first and foremost is the history. So history is how was the onset of the rash? What were the prodromal features? How was the progression? Then along with it, you need to know some histories like the clue of about the time, that is the climate. Suppose like measles is common during the January to March, while your meningococcemia is common in winters. Your staphylococcal and streptococcal abscesses and infections are more common in the summers. Then any visit to the hilly area or area where there has been lot of water clogging can give you an idea about the underlying cause. Then history of exposure is very important, especially in drug reactions or in non-specific rashes that you're not able to identify or infective cause. For example, a child is going to a daycare center. He's going to school when there is a specific kind of exposure to animals or grass or excessive bushes. So that is important. Then in home, if the parents or the child is playing with some kind of pets or there is infestation of some insects, like sometimes the blanket that they take, they're infested, the carpet is infested, so you need to take care of that history. And also, and the most important is the medications. That is, if the child has been exposed to some new drug, and that can be the common cause of a drug reaction. Then transfusions, history of transfusion, and another important thing is any recent immunization. Because if you look at some live attenuated virus, they have virus in the low amount, which can induce a viral-like illness. So that can, especially after measles or a chickenpox vaccine, a child might come with fever and a rash, but of course that intensity is much, much less as compared to the natural infection. Then you can also have a clue about the cause of the fever with rash by the day of onset. So if a child presents to you with a rash typically on the first day of fever, then it is most likely a varicella rash, and typical picture is a vesicles formation which comes in crops. That is, there is not a one lesion who comes, there will be multiple lesions. Then there can be fever with rash 3 days after the onset of fever, that is rubella. Then 4th day after the onset of fever, measles. And also commonly that you see typhoid. There are rashes which can be seen on the upper trunk and the chest on the 7th day. But usually in our Asians, we are not able to appreciate it because of the increased melanin. So next. So I'll give you clues about, let's discuss the cases and then we will in detail talk about each disease. So if there is a 9-month-old girl who is pre-morbid, completely normal, in a good health status, there is a progressive fever for 5 days with coryza, conjunctivitis, cough and irritability. There is no diarrhea or vomiting, and there is no recent travel or contact with pets. She has rashes over the trunks, abdomen, and back, which appeared 4 days after the onset of fever, and they are not elevated and neither they are itchy. So what, and this is the picture of the rash. So this is a typical, if you can see, maculopapular rashes, which are present over the face, over the upper limbs. And in this child, it is present all over the body. So yes, you people have guessed it right. It is the typical measles rash. So you can get clues that give us that we could identify. First, for example, is the age. A 9-month-old child. Then second thing is the rashes. The onset of rashes is 4 days after the onset of fever. Then the picture of the rash. That is a typical maculopapular rash, which is present confluently all over the body. So these are the few things which helped us to identify, yes, this is a measles infection. So measles is caused by a paramyxovirus, and you all know it is mostly enters our body to the upper respiratory tract, and this also transmitted through respiratory droplets. So important now again is the period of communicability, which is 5 days before to 4 days after the appearance of the rash. So by the time the child reaches you, he might have already infected many other people in the community. So there are 4 phases. First, of course, there is an incubation period. Then there is a prodromal phase. That is told the child had cough, conjunctivitis, coryza, and in this prodromal feature, you can see Koplik spots. Okay, these are whitish discoloration which is seen opposite the molar tooth in the oral mucosa. Then there is a rash that we have already discussed. So the important thing is rash starts behind the ears and then it progresses downwards and spread down to the whole of the body. And after 4 to 5 days after your rash has appeared, then the period of recovery starts. So this is the conjunctivitis rash, and if you can see my pointer, these are the whitish grayish spots which you can see in the oral mucosa. These are the Koplik spots. So some features are pathognomic of the disease. Koplik spot is one such feature. Complications. Now, measles lead to a immunocompromised state. So child might be prone to more infections, most commonly secondary bacterial infections. It can lead to acute otitis media. It can lead to pneumonias. It can also lead to a myocardial involvement. It can lead to even your meningoencephalitis. So not only your identifying of the particular disease is important, counseling of the parents for the possible complications is also necessary. Then if you have heard of the disease subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, it is the later manifestation of a measles because of the reaction to the measles antigen which might persist. And the treatment. Now, the major treatment for all exanthematous diseases is mainly supportive treatment, especially in children. These diseases, when they manifest in adults, they can be more serious and we might need specific drugs for them. But in children, these viral illnesses are not life endangering. So we give them more of a supportive treatment, and if and only if they get some secondary infections, we try to cure them with the help of antibiotics. So main treatment is to treat the fever with the help of your antibiotics, maintain a good amount of hydration in the child, and in measles we also give vitamin A supplementation. Okay, but treatment with antiviral drugs is generally not recommended. Now coming to the next slide, and this is the next virus that you have to identify. This is a 2-year-old girl child who presents with fever for 4 to 5 days, and then there's onset of macular rashes on the back. And also the mother noticed some reddish spots on the palate when the child, opens her mouth while crying. The mother noticed these kind of spots on the palate. The mother comes to you and she's very worried. So what kind of disease you think it is? Yes, this is a rubella. Why rubella? Because one is fever. See, the rashes are very difficult for you to differentiate between the measles and the rubella rashes. But yes, first is age. Rubella doesn't usually occur in a 9-month, 6-month-old child. It presents little later. Then these Faucherman spots, which you can see in the palate, they are pathognomic of the rubella infection. Then what else is associated with the rubella infection? It is generally lymphadenopathy also, which I'll tell you later. So rubella virus belongs to Toga virus family, and it is enters our body through respiratory epithelium only. Important point about rubella is if the infection is acquired in the first trimester, you all know it can lead to congenital rubella syndrome, and child can be born with severe, what should I say, defects, and can have a compromised life. Okay, so the period of communicability for rubella it's contagious 2 days before to 5 to 7 days after the onset of rash. So most commonly what happens is that there is fever, then there is lymphadenopathy, and mostly there is retroauricular and posterior cervical lymphadenopathy, which then leads to erythematous maculopapular rashes, which starts from the face and then involve the whole of the body. Okay, so the prodrome is same: headache, fever, conjunctivitis, pharyngitis, but complication, or I should say congenital rubella syndrome has your eye defects, it has your ear defects, and it has your heart defects. So the child, but the higher chances of having a congenital rubella syndrome is when if the mother has acquired infection during the first 3 months of pregnancy. Again, the treatment is supportive. Congenital rubella syndrome baby needs to be isolated. And prevention, how do we prevent? So important point for these xanthomatous illnesses is many of them are vaccine preventable diseases like a measles and rubella. So they can be, nowadays we have MR vaccine campaign which is given to children at 9 months of age and also at 15 months of age, and they have very efficacious. They have efficacy of around 90 to 95%. And if a pregnant female, like if any female is not immunized and she is planning a baby, then she should be immunized before planning the conception. So next, coming to the last, not the last, I think there's one more case after that. So this is a 5-year-old child who has no past medical history. There is fever for 48 hours. And there is a vesicular rash which is there on the face as well as on the trunks, and there is palms and soles are also involved. So the vesicular rash are typically seen in children in chickenpox, as you all know, which is a herpes virus family, and it is highly contagious because the secondary attack rate is around 90%. So it's contagious from 2 days before to 7 days after the onset of rash, but when all the lesions have crusted. So important point for chickenpox is there are multiple crops of lesions which keep on erupting maybe at a gap of 4 days, 5 days, and when all these lesions have crusted, then only the patient is non-infected. Somebody has asked me, ma'am, why has mumps removed from MMR to make it MR? So it's not that the mumps infection per se has really reduced a lot. There's a lot of herd immunity. So we need more of vaccine for measles and rubella. So MR vaccine has been given with the camp. Like these are different campaigns that have been started by the government to promote a vaccine. So we need to promote the vaccination more to measles and rubella as compared to the mumps because the complications are less and there is good herd immunity already built for that disease. So that's why MR was introduced so that there can be school campaigns and multiple campaigns which can be arranged for mass immunization of the children. So coming to the rash. So what happens with the rash is they are not vesicles. Initially they are red papules only, which ulcerate, which forms first vesicles and then they ulcerate and then crust. So there are multiple crops which keep on appearing after every 3 to 4 days. So and there is extensive pruritus. So that is very important, and there is also lymphadenopathy. So these are the rashes of chicken pox. Yes. So varicella also leads to an immunocompromised state in children, and they are prone to infections by streptococci or staphylococci. It can lead to complications like pneumonia, myocarditis, pericarditis, and also neurological complications. So in congenital infections, if you see by varicella, it can lead to low birth weight. It can lead to involvement of the CNS in the child, leading to chorioretinitis, also cataracts, microcephaly. So treatment. However, now what is the treatment? In small children, as I said, we don't treat. We just give antipyretics drugs. We maintain the hydrotherapy. But in children more than 12 years of age, we like to give specific antiviral treatment, that is acyclovir for that is the oral therapy. And prevention is by vaccination. We have live attenuated vaccine which give it 2 doses. And immunoglobulin is given only in cases, it's a severe immunocompromised child who is an HIV child or maybe a child on chemotherapy. Those children might be given a passive immunity with the immunoglobulins. Now, herpes zoster is one of the late manifestations of varicella in which the virus can remain dormant in the dorsal root ganglia. So whenever there is a reactivation of the virus, but the important thing is it involves a single dermatome. And there is extensive pain because it involves the nerves. Extensive involvement of the nerves lead to pain, burning sensations, as well as paresthesias. And treatment is mainly analgesics, antiviral agents, but steroids are mostly needed in herpes zoster for decreasing the inflammation as well as the pain. Now, this is one of the diseases if you look at, there are blister lesions on the palms, soles, as well as mouth. So, this is a hand, foot, and mouth disease, mainly occur in children of less than 10 years of age, caused by enteroviruses, and mostly in the summer season. So what happens is it's a contagious disorder. Mostly siblings, they all come, like 2-3 बच्चे अगर घर में हैं, तो everybody is having the same disease around the same time, having fever and the typical appearance of rashes. They begin as small red spots. They're usually located on the tongues, gums, and inside of cheeks. And the skin rash develops over 1 to 2 days with flat raised spots, and some may form blisters also, and palms and soles are also. But important thing, it is not, it doesn't lead to any immunocompromised state or secondary infections. It is usually a self-limiting disease and takes around 7 to 10 days for the recovery. Now, this is one of the serious manifestations which we can include in fever with exanthem. That is, initially there might be just petechiae, and then there are large hemorrhagic lesions, purpuras, which get formed in the body along with bleeding manifestations. This is seen in meningococcemia, which have different kind of rashes. It can initially have a maculopapular rash, which can involve petechiae, then purpura, and maybe a large necrotic lesions that appear. And it is lethal. This disease is bacteria is lethal. It is rapidly progress and it can kill the child within few hours. So, it needs that urgent management. It needs to be given urgent antibiotics, your blood therapy, everything needs to be given to this child. Now, this is the this case is little which you used to find earlier. Now these cases are little less. Important point, the only different point here is that they have a sandpaper appearance of rash. If you see at the cheeks and when we palpate them, they exactly feel like sandpaper. So initial symptoms are same as fever, vomiting, or abdominal pain, and then the appearance of rash, and this mostly occur in little older children, like more than 5 to 15 years is the mostly the age that they present with. And this is the scarlet fever, which is caused by group A streptococcus. Okay. In these children, we can have strawberry tongue also. Then there are pastia lines. That if you see as the pastia lines, they are red streaks. Okay, and they're generalized capillaries which get involved, and they can progress also. And this is the if you see this is the back, and you can see small fine raised lesions, and when you feel them, it looks like a sandpaper. Now the Kawasaki disease. Kawasaki disease is one of the manifestations, as you told, autoimmune manifestations with the involvement of the vasculitis. So that is cause under which Kawasaki disease will present. It as how to diagnose it. It is like fever for at least 5 days, and out of the 5, there should be 4 things present. And mostly children around 5 to 6 years of age, they come with Kawasaki disease, and they can have sudden death, they can have coronary artery aneurysms. That is one of the causes which makes it difficult. What does they have? They have the strawberry tongue, they have edema of the limbs, they have skin peeling, they have this typical maculopapular rash, they can have cervical lymphadenopathy. So this is how Kawasaki disease presents. Then coming to the less, common causes, which are not that, I should say they're not infective and they are not that difficult to manage also. They are day-to-day rashes that the child will commonly present you then, but it will not lead to a immunocompromised state or secondary infections, or these are not lethal. So erythema infectiosum are caused by parvovirus B19. They have fever, headache, coryza, and they come with a slap cheek appearance. That is, if I'll show you, this is a typical slap cheek appearance of the red confluent rash, okay, which appears on the chest, back, or arms, legs. And important thing is of this parvovirus, it can lead to 2 things. It can lead to joint involvement of a child and may not be, synchronous with what is happening during the rash. At the time of rash fever, it is just a viral illness. But maybe after a few weeks, the parent may come, the child is having problem with, joint pains, having problem in mobility. So that can be a late manifestation of parvovirus. And then another thing, it can affect a bone marrow and it can lead to aplastic crisis. That is, all the cell lines might be affected, and the production of the cell lines which occurs in the bone marrow will be affected, and the child may present with pancytopenia. Treatment is usually, mainly you give symptomatic treatment only. There is no specific treatment. Then coming to roseola, that is the 6th disease, exanthum subitum, which is caused by human herpes virus, mostly in children less than 3 years. They have maculopapular rashes over the trunk and neck, and important, if you can see. So this kind of rash, you can think it can be measles also. But a measles rash, if you think, it is mostly seen in children between 6 months to 1 year of age, because most of the children get vaccine around 9 months of age. But if a child has not been vaccinated to measles, then you have to keep. Now, what are these rashes? These are less. So these are, if you can see, these are small papular lesions. Yes. and they can occur in the typhoid. These are rose spots. But they can be appreciated on day 7 of typhoid fever, and they are very pathognomic. If you get them, you are very sure that yes, this fever is a typhoid fever. Then you can look at this petechiae, small lesions, reddish pinpoint lesions, and in the other picture there is blanching. There is diffuse erythema and the blanching. This is mostly seen in dengue. So dengue doesn't come under fever with exanthem or exanthematous illness. I have just included this picture so that you can just know the cause of rash might be, there can be many causes. So this petechiae may not be because of a thrombocytopenia. It might not be due to meningococcemia, but it might be due to the dengue fever, which leads to thrombocytopenia. Okay, so you just need to identify them. Then there can be rash, Ishar or typhus rash. Then important, very, very important DD is your drug reaction. Because mostly mother kya आएंगी कि they will come कि child has fever for 1 day and I gave him paracetamol yesterday and उसके बाद से उसको rash आ गया. Now you all know paracetamol belongs to a drug which usually does not cause reaction, but yes, of course, any drug can cause reaction. Then you are not sure whether it is a fever and a rash, which is usually during the normal course of the illness, or it is because of the paracetamol, or maybe some private practitioner has given them an antibiotic also. They've given a mox or penicillin, anything, and child had taken first dose in the night. In the morning, the mother notices the rashes. So whether it is a drug rash or whether it is a part of the normal course of the disease, you are not sure. So first of all, important thing is, of course, you can see the age of the child. You can see the correlation with the drug intake, correlation with the fever spikes. You can look for any pathognomic features like Koplik spots, Faucher spots, that if you can find Pastia lines. So if you can find something very typical of that, yes, so you're sure that what kind of illness it is. But still, if you don't find anything, then what do? And this is a typical maculopapular rashes, which is extensive pruritus. Okay, or drug reactions sometimes are usually urticarial rashes. Urticarial rashes are those wheals. If you remember, I showed them initially. Those wheals, they have extensive pruritus and they are mostly seen after transfusion reactions or acute reactions that happen. So that is most difficult task for us to differentiate between. Urticaria rash can occur after insect bite also. So you have to be very, very sure what kind of thing that you are dealing with. So one important point for drug reaction is the rash will improve once the offending drug is removed. So that is very typical feature which will not happen with any of the other exanthematous illnesses. So you have to be very, very sure about it. And treatment is very simple. We need to discontinue the drug. We need to give emollients. And in very severe involvement, like, if there is extensive involvement of the skin and there is peeling of the skin, then you might need steroids. So that's, I think, yes, this is what was planned for today. And if you have any, so this kind of, what is important for you for the exam point of view is might be some theory questions that might arise because by, measles or complications of measles or any of the disease that we have discussed with, mainly the exanthematous diseases. But as a clinician, like you will be doing your internship or you might be going to one of the specialties later on. Fever with rash is a very, very common thing which our pediatrician usually encounters in the OPD as well as in the emergency. So having a good knowledge about it only will help you in differentiating, because contagiousness is one and foremost very important point, and secondary immunocompromised state, because as such these infections are not dangerous. No child will die because of these infections, but they can die because of the immunocompromised states and secondary bacterial infections, which might be difficult to control with the help of antibiotics. Okay. So I think that's all for now.